Oh my goodness, we are having ourselves quite the day today when it comes to these Instagram lives. It's Joel again from Manchester News. It is now just nearing the noon hour here, BC time here in Canada, which makes it just around 8 o'clock on the UK time. We will hopefully get to bring in Steve here, depending on how our technical issues are. I'm not sure if it's just my internet or if it's like the sync pattern with my AirPods or whatnot, but I am having myself quite the day when it comes to that. So if we can get things fixed, we will chat everything Manchester City related. We'll talk about their big come from behind victory yesterday against PSG, a massive 2 away goals for Manchester City heading home to the Etihad next week for the big second leg as they look to make it to their very first Champions League final and their first European Cup final, I believe, since the 1969-70 season when they captured the Cup Winners' Cup, the old Cup Winners' Cup. I see Steve is on there. We're going to talk about that. We will hopefully, depending on how everything shakes down here, we will hopefully be able to talk a little bit about their matchup with Crystal Palace this weekend. A big opportunity for Manchester City to move a little bit closer to that Premier League title, a third in their last 4 seasons. A big opportunity for them against Crystal Palace. Plus, Player of the Year voting is now open. Plenty of different stars for Manchester City who have a chance to capture it this year. It's not nearly as clear-cut as it was a season ago when Kevin De Bruyne, in my opinion, won it by a country mile. Let's do this. Let's bring in Big Steve from the Big Six podcast. Hopefully, technical issues are worked out here.
Yeah, man.
Hey, what's up?
Fifth time lucky.
That's the charm. Yeah, that's what it is. We're overthinking this. We're Pep Guardiolaing it. We're doing overthinking the tactics here with this whole thing. So let's get it right this time. I know you've already sort of touched on it a few times before. Our connections have messed up a little. Let's just delve right into it now. Man City, big comeback yesterday against PSG. Let's
Yeah,
give your assessment on it.
yeah. Taylor two halves, like we said. First half, Paris played really well. They kept the ball well. They kept us at bay. We didn't really offer nothing. We were side to side, very lame. Um, they were growing into the game. They got the goal, great header from a corner. No one picked him up. And then they started to play a little bit. They were knocking it about, one touch, two touch. Neymar was doing a few tricks and turns. Mbappe was knocking it around a little bit. And then we got to half time, 1-0. We were lucky. We had a good chance at the end with Phil Foden, end of the first half. So we went in, and then the second half was a totally different game. It was like they'd swap shirts, or Pep Guardiola give them a bollocking, to be honest. We came out quicker, faster. We started faster. We chased them down, and we just looked the better side. We started to get in the rhythm, knocking it around. We're getting in some dangerous attacks. We were forcing them to make mistakes, and we were forcing them to play on the back foot. Crazy goal from De Bruyne. The cross just evaded everyone, dropped in, but we'll take it. And then the free kick from Mahrez, absolutely unbelievable. The way he got it through that wall. I mean, did he mean it? We don't know, but I'm taking it. And then, PSG started to lose the head. Obviously, Idrissa Gueye got sent off with a bad tackle on Gundogan. Neymar started being a little petulant, rolling around on the floor. And then they just seemed to lose it then. You know what I mean? And really, we could have pushed on and maybe got a third, but I understand Pep's thinking and just seeing the game out. 2 away goals in Paris. It's a great result. One of the best nights we've ever had in Europe in a semi-final. To score 2 away from home, you've got to be happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. You really, I don't think Pep Guardiola could have asked for more, especially against a team like PSG with the kind of attacking options they have. And not to mention, we've talked about Mbappe, you mentioned Neymar. There's also Di Maria. They even, when you can boast a player like Moise Kean, who could be a starter on quite a few Premier League teams as well right now, that's saying something to even keep them, limit them to one goal. I want to talk about their start because that's something that we've seen a lot of lately in the Champions League and in the Premier League lately is Man City being a little bit slow out of the gate. How much do you think the emotions of capturing a fourth straight Carabao Cup over the weekend, do you think that sort of emotional fatigue? Because when you have results like that, when you're on a big high like that, it can usually lead to a bit of an emotional letdown the next game because there's only so high you can get emotionally. Do you think their victory in the Carabao Cup might have gone into their game in the Champions League just emotionally? Do you think they just weren't there to start it off?
I don't think so. I think the Paris game would always be a bigger game. So I think the Carabao Cup, yeah, they probably enjoyed it that night, but I think they were fully switched. I just think we started slow, and I think they got in the stride earlier than us. We've played well with a false nine, but first half we didn't. There was nothing up front for us at all in the centre of the pitch. There was nobody going against their centre halves who could hold the ball up. So we basically were just knocking it side to side. We couldn't even cross it because there was no one in the box, and it was just disjointed. It didn't look right. So at half time, I was worried. You know what I mean? I was on the Don Robbie podcast, watch along with a Paris Saint-Germain fan. He was jumping around, throwing his scarf about, thinking it was all over. But no, I just had to. You just got to wait and see because Man City can come out like you saw, totally different. You know, we are capable of that. We did that against Liverpool this season at Anfield. First half, we wasn't really at the races. Second half, we came out, got the win. And yeah, no, everyone played well. I mean, when you've got Neymar and Mbappe on the pitch, they've always got a chance because them two, you only need 1 minute to turn it on, and then you're finished. But I thought John Stones and Diaz played it well. They were aggressive in the tackle. I know Neymar doesn't like that, but the referee was strong. He didn't fall for all that tactics. You know what I mean? Diaz put a few tackles in there, which other referees might have blew up for, but he didn't. I thought Kyle Walker was brilliant with his pace. He never let him get behind us. He was always there to cover. Cancelo got caught out a couple of times, and Pep seen that, and he brought on Zinchenko. And then we steadied the ship, and then we started getting into our rhythm. I don't think they liked it. Nobody's going to their ground and outplaying them. And we did second half, you know, and they didn't like it. And like you say, to get 2 goals away in Paris, going back to the Etihad now, any Man City fan would take that. So we're happy, man.
I want to talk about the way some of these legs are made up. I think there can be an argument for people to say that, you know, it doesn't really matter because there's one on the road and then one at home for these legs. Do you think it plays a difference? Because I personally think it is a bit of it's obviously it's luck of the draw, but do you think there's more of an advantage to teams who get to go home in the second leg? And my argument to that is basically this. It's when you are starting off a leg in Europe in particular, where you're playing against a team who you probably haven't seen for a little while, at least a year, depending on the rivalry and how often you're in Champions League or Europa League and whatnot. There's a feel out stage sort of in the first opening 10, 15 minutes of a game, but then the second leg, you know what's coming. So I think there's an advantage to starting on the road because there is the nerves of getting a feel out for your team, but there is also a fear when you're at home to start of just don't concede for the love of God. And that fear of that can get to you. Do you think there's an advantage whether it's first leg home, second leg home?
Yeah, of course. You always want to play away first, and then if you can go away and get a good result, and you bring them back to your stadium, usually with the home fans behind you and that, you can get the job done. But with no fans in the stadium, it's a little bit different. I mean, Paris Stadium with the fans in and the ultras and that is quite an intimidating place. The Etihad, when it's full and it's bouncing and that can be an intimidating place. But you know, at the minute with no fans, it doesn't really feel like you've played away. You know, oh, excuse me. Surely the players late night. So some of the players will. Some of the players will just enjoy playing with no fans there because there's no pressure. But like you say now, I'm confident taking them back to the Etihad that we can do it.
Let's talk about a few of the points in the game yesterday. Let's start with the goal from Marquinhos. From what I saw, just really Gundogan kind of let Marquinhos get in there. He wasn't really tight. Was Gundogan the one responsible? Is Gundogan at fault for that goal?
It did look like that was Gundogan's man, and he did lose it. But then Rodri was sort of in no man's land as well. So, and he come across Rodri. I mean, it's hard to say, innit? Look, either way you look at it, it was bad marking. You know, if you're a manager, you're looking at that. Whoever's the man is, only Pep will know he didn't do his job. But look, you know, it happens in football. It was a great header. He got in front of his man, bang, goal. So there's no complaints from me. It was a great goal, but we learned from it, and that's the thing. We didn't collapse, and I think a Manchester City side of a few years ago might have got a bit of a wobble on. We might have tried to throw the kitchen sink at them to try and claw it back, and we probably would have got caught. But what we did is it's all about patience. I've spoke to you about it before, and about control. There's no need to panic. Yeah, just keep going. Same as Sunday in the cup final. No need to panic. Everyone going on, oh, they've done this. How many chances do you need? Don't worry, it's coming, man. And it's the same. I get that feeling. It was coming. And I was on the watch along. I said, we're going to win 2-1. And I said to the Paris fan at half time, you need to calm down. It's not over. And yeah, you know, I've watched my team for a long time. I know my football, and I knew we had a say in it. You know what I mean? And that goes the other way sometimes. I'll tell you within 30 minutes if I think we're going to struggle, we're going to get beat, because I just know the way they play.
Yeah, and for anybody who is a PSG fan, they really should know better, particularly in their past history in the Champions League. You can only look to the 2017 Champions League when they lost 6-1, when they really should have been home and dry against Barcelona. So that's a wake-up call to not only everybody on the PSG team who is maybe still around from that, but also like fans as well, that like nothing is in the bag in the Champions League, particularly with a team as potent as Manchester City. We talk about their false nine, but they're still the highest scoring team, I believe, in the Premier League right now, and also the best defensive unit, I think, too. So there is you can never get ahead of yourself. And Man City have proven this year that, you know, they are a team built on possession, but they can be resilient just like Man United, and they can come back and win a lot of these games for sure. Let's talk a little bit about Pep Guardiola. We've talked a few times about him potentially overthinking his tactics. I wonder if with a team like PSG, their threats are obvious. You want to contain a guy like Mbappe. You want to try to shut down as best you can somebody like Neymar. Does that kind of make Guardiola's job a little bit easier, because you don't necessarily have to overthink so much, because it's obvious sort of the threats that PSG possess? In a sense, does that make it easier? Because the team, he doesn't have to tell a lot to the team, right? The team knows what they have to do against a team like PSG, right?
Yeah, they do, but I think you've got to play very disciplined against them. If any of your back four goes missing, like you're seeing with Cancelo, they're going to get in behind. So your back four's got to be rigid, strong. It's got to know where to be when they've got the ball. It's got to know where to be when they haven't got the ball. Same with your midfield. You had a couple of midfielders in there, Verratti and Idrissa Gueye, who are very combative, who are trying to spoil it for you. They're trying to get in your face. You've got to know when to mix it and when not to mix it. So the tactics would have been tough for City. I mean, I looked at PSG when they didn't have the ball, and they were two banks of four, and they looked very, very organised, and we were struggling to get through them. And then City in the first half, we were bombing up the pitch. Rodri gave it away, then we were caught out of position. Cancelo was miles forward, and then Foden had to get back to left back to cover. So first half, I don't think tactically we were at the races, but second half, if you look at the way we we came out, and the way we pressed from the front and the way we squeezed them and we made them make mistakes. I think the tactics that the lads just did what they've done all season. You know what I mean? They just needed to get that first half out of the way, get back in, get some half-time inspiration, and just go out and do the business, which they did.
Do you think that's all it was, or do you think it maybe had something to do with PSG getting a little bit, having their head above their shoulders, playing so well in the first, I'd say, half hour, 35 minutes or so? Because I feel like for me, Man City didn't really get into the game until about the final maybe 10 minutes or so of the first half. Was it just PSG too much on their high horse, or was it the halftime adjustments, or what?
A bit of both. I think they did get a little bit above the station. The Paris Saint-Germain fan watching it with me was saying the same, saying that they're getting too confident. They're doing some flicks, back heels, twists, turns, little things they should just be, you know, it's not a mess about game. It's not an exhibition. You know what I mean? You need to do this right. And then what happened as well, once we got a foothold in the game, they got very petulant. They started kicking people. They started fouling. Idrissa Gueye nearly broke Gundogan's leg. Neymar was rolling around on the floor like he'd been shot. They were trying to get De Bruyne sent off, all gathered around the referee. So, yeah, it rattled them. And they were rattled by it. So, overall, it works out perfect for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the two Man City goals in the second half. Man City was obviously growing into the game. They were playing really well. I think they still, even though I feel like the goals were a little bit fortunate, it's kind of a case of, well, you have to be good to be lucky, right? Because I think Navas would obviously like to have the first goal back. That's the one where he's anticipating a deflection, I think. That doesn't happen. The second one, like you said, I don't know how that somehow gets through. I do think that Man City threw PSG off a little bit because I think they had anticipated De Bruyne was going to take that free kick. So I don't know if it was just that. Is that all it is? Is just, well, you know, when you're as good a team and as patient a team as Man City, you get breaks like that?
Well, like you say, Kevin De Bruyne, he whipped that. Well, he didn't even whip it in, really. He just floated the ball in. But I think the goalkeeper was anticipating either the defender heading it away or John Stones getting the touch. Obviously, it dropped in the corner. So, yeah, it was a bit lucky, that one. But you've got to put it in the mixer to get that look there. And then the free kick, I mean, if you're a manager or a goalkeeper and you've got a wall in front of you, I can understand the ball can go under the wall if they jump. I can understand the ball going over the wall if you hit it right, but you can't accept the ball going through the wall. The whole purpose of a wall is to act like a wall. So you block it, you know what I mean? So they've opened up and it's gone through and in. So it's their own fault, you know what I mean? The Paris Saint-Germain, whoever's in that wall needs to look at themselves. But we're taking it. Listen, Riyad Mahrez, great goal. So yeah, I'm taking it.
And Riyad Mahrez has really risen to the occasion. I mean, he's risen to the occasion all year, but especially in the last couple of games, he's stepped up on the scoreboard when Man City need it most. This is a no-brainer, but we're going to go through it anyways because it could potentially be something that is going to, I mean, it kind of killed PSG's chances of a comeback. That reckless challenge on Ilkay Gundogan, that is a no-brainer, an easy red card and suspension, right?
Yeah. They got petulant. They got frustrated. He's gone in on him there. De Bruyne did one that's not similar, but he did foul someone. It was a yellow card, and you can see by the reaction of them, they're all around the referee. They're all bullying him and not. But that referee, I don't know his name. It escapes me. But I've watched him a few times in the Champions League, and he's a great referee, man. He lets the game flow. He's very sensible. Doesn't keep bringing it back. You know, lets little things go, which, you know, it's good to see in the modern game. But he got that one right, definitely.
Yeah, and you were talking about the one seemed like they were trying to get De Bruyne sent off. Neymar obviously has a bit of a reputation of trying to influence officials, of flopping pretty easily as well. So I think that could very well be. Refs are probably just kind of fed up with Neymar at this point because he does it so often, right?
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows what Neymar's about. We had this discussion in the studio. And it was it was just a nightmare with him. You know, he's so good of a player, and then all of a sudden he's rolling around on the floor. He's just screaming. He's acting like he's been shot. You know what I mean? And he don't need to do that. You know, all the good quality players out there, a lot of them don't do that. And with him, I think that tarnishes his reputation. I think if he cuts that out of his game, he'd get a lot more respect.
As somebody who follows the French national team and as somebody who watches Ligue 1 on a weekly basis, this is, I think, this season anyways, this is by far the quietest I have seen Kylian Mbappe, particularly in the second half, and Neymar as well. Did City do anything differently to I wouldn't say they shut them down, because I don't think you can shut down guys of the caliber of those two, but they contained them probably as good as one can ask. Did you notice anything different in their defending in the second half?
I just think we pressed that high up the pitch. They had to come a little bit deeper than where they normally would like to be. So they were picking up the ball maybe 20, 30 yards from goal. And if you keep them two players 20, 30 yards from goal, you've got a chance. And we didn't overcommit and let them get in behind us, which a lot of teams do. You know, they play the high line and they get in over the top. Our fullbacks get a bit too happy, go up front, they get this dink over the top. But at the end of the day, we were aggressive in the tackle as well. I think Stones and Diaz, when they were coming out to meet them two players, they were making some really good aggressive challenges, winning the ball. And I just think it frustrated them a little bit. I think they're used to getting their own way. I think they're used to bullying teams. And the first half, they sort of did that. But the second half, we didn't let them do it. And then I think they threw the toys out the pram and they didn't want to play them.
Heading into this match, Pep Guardiola made an interesting, I mean, I'm not surprised Guardiola made this comment, because, you know, he's been sort of all about taking as much pressure off of his players as possible, which is what you're supposed to do in a sense when you're a manager. You want to put the pressure on you because the players are the ones that have to go out there and perform. He talked about treating this semifinal, this leg, as a friendly. Do you think that was the right mentality? Because for me, on one hand, there's like, obviously, yeah, you want to you don't want to be all tense and miss your assignments and whatnot. But on the other hand, sometimes friendlies, there can be a little bit too much of a nonchalance about you when there's a friendly, because you know in your mind there's nothing at stake. Was that the right approach for the magnitude of this semifinal?
I think it was just a bit tongue-in-cheek, me. I think he was trying to take the pressure off it a little bit. Obviously, I heard the comment. I didn't ring any bells with me. I know for a fact, after last season at Lyon, how much this competition means to him. And I know by the reaction in the quarter-final against Dortmund of the players and Guardiola how much this game means to him. So maybe it was some attempts at mind games. I don't know, but whatever it was, it worked.
I want to talk about Neymar again, because Neymar was also very prominent in the media heading into the first leg. He talked about how he's going to do everything possible to get PSG into the final, sort of issuing a warning to Manchester City. Why do you think Neymar is putting so much pressure on himself to win a championship that he has won a few times? Is it just because he was on a team with Barcelona with so many stars like Messi and Suarez and company, or is it just like the pressure getting to him of being Neymar because he's Brazilian? Every time Brazil goes to the World Cup, he's expected to carry them on their shoulders, win them the World Cup. Is it just the pressure and expectation? Is that getting to Neymar?
I don't know. I think they're looking to him to say something, aren't they? You know, if he came out there and he was very, very like meek and mild and didn't really say anything, they'd probably pull him apart and say he didn't look confident. So I don't mind a bit of confidence. You know, the guy's obviously got talent. He's obviously confident in his ability. So yeah, you know, I'd rather my players come out and say they were going to drag us to the final. Gives the fans a bit of hope. But yeah, listen, the game's not over. The game's not over. It's half time for me. Anything is possible, as you've seen before. And at the end of the day, we've just got to make sure we start same tempo as we did second half, and see out this game. It'll be all about control. Let's control the game and let's get in this Champions League final.
Last week, we talked about how there is just as much at stake for both of these teams because these teams have sort of gotten a bit of a reputation in the Champions League of being teams that aren't really, that can't quite get it done. Fantastic domestically, can win everything there is to win in their respective domestic leagues, but they can't seem to get it done in Europe. Do you think one of these teams had more pressure on them heading into the opening leg?
I don't know. I mean, the British media were putting the pressure on Pep. You know, we're the only team in this history of English football that get judged by trebles, and we're the only team in English football that if you won the Premier League and the Carabao Cup, it's classed as a failure. You know what I mean? It's weird, but you know what I mean. The pressure was on Man City, mate. You know, everyone's out in this country to make sure Pep fails. Because if he wins that Champions League, there's an argument for him to go down as probably one of the best, if not the best, Premier League manager there ever been. The way he's come to England and he said he couldn't do it, he wouldn't revolutionise football here, and he changed it all. And we did the Centurions, we did the Formidables, two things that have never been done in the history of football. Pep Guardiola done that. 4 Carabao Cups in a row, another Premier League title on the way. You know, a Champions League would just put the icing on the cake.
We heading into this match, we know exactly, you know, how clinical PSG can be in front of goal. They really you give them 2 chances, they're going to score on 2 chances. They're going to score on 3 out of their 4 chances. How critical was it for Manchester City to make their chances count, just knowing the potency on the other end?
Yeah, that's key because, like you say, if they get a chance with them 2 strikers up front, it's going in the net. So we've got to make sure that we have them games where we convert our chances. We've had games where we've had like 35, 36 crosses into the box, 20 attempts on target and not scored, or we scored 1. They're the games you don't want to be having in the Champions League. You want to be having 4 shots, 2 goals, something like that. That is perfect because it's a shootout next time. They've got 2 of the biggest shooters in world football and they need goals. So they're coming to the Etihad and they can't sit back. They've got to go for it. So when they go for it, it leaves them open. And we just got to manage the game. You know, we can afford to sit deep and let them have the ball for a bit. But we just can't afford to concede. And if we catch them on the break, we catch them on the break. But there's one thing I'm confident of. I think we will definitely score at home.
Yeah, and it's not as simple like it was against Borussia Dortmund, where Borussia Dortmund, it was kind of a simple task for them in a sense. They just needed to get a victory in order to potentially go through, right? The 1-0, and by that, you score a goal and you're good. So it makes your job a little bit simple. This is not 1-0 isn't going to be enough for PSG to get through. So that's going to give Man City that bit of an extra edge as well, I think, going into the second leg. We've seen PSG made a managerial change earlier this season. I was a bit surprised when Tuchel was axed in favor of Pochettino. Have you noticed PSG playing differently in Europe in the Champions League under Pochettino and Tuchel?
Sorry, I'm just trying to find the Man United game. Someone said they're getting beat.
Yeah, no worries. Basically,
nah, it's 1-1. What I'm talking about. No, yeah, with Tuchel. I mean, look at Tuchel now at Chelsea. You know, he's doing all right. I mean, the Paris Saint-Germain fan didn't seem overly impressed with Pochettino yesterday, but you know, it is what it is. Tuchel, will that be a mistake? I don't know. And like you say, could Tuchel take Chelsea to the final and Paris Saint-Germain be out? You know, you never know. But they're both good managers anyway.
I heard an interesting point yesterday. I was watching a preview show on ESPN FC. They were talking to Alessandro Del Piero, former World Cup champion with Italy, former Juventus great. He mentioned something interesting. He talked about how when you're playing in Europe like this, you need to be angry. He criticized City as being too much about like a beauty and finesse under Pep Guardiola. And he says that in order to win these European Cups, you need to be willing to die. So metaphorically speaking, obviously. Is that something that you think City has been missing in Europe prior to this season?
I get what he's saying, because Del Piero used to play with intensity and he was angry, and he had, we had all them players around him who were physical. But Barcelona with Lionel Messi and Pep played beautiful football. It wasn't aggressive, it wasn't angry. They just passed you apart and then won the Champions League. So at the end of the day, do we need aggressive players in our team? No, because I don't think that would work. I think you have players in your team that are aggressive. They're fouling all the time and pulling the play and stopping your play. You know what I mean? If you've got players that are passing it around with a bit of silky skills and that, it keeps your rhythm going and then you get to where you want to be. I mean, we've come up against aggressive teams that have tried to kick us off the park and we've beaten. You know what I mean? Because I get Del Piero, I get what he's saying. I do understand that. But there's an argument for that, yeah. I mean, Jose Mourinho's Inter Milan team that won the Champions League were a bit similar. Cambiasso, they had a lot of physical players in there and they sort of bullied the way to it. But for every aggressive-minded team you get, there's probably 2 or 3 beautiful teams to watch. So, nah, I'm not going with Del Piero on that one.
Fair enough. Another point I want to touch on, and this sort of is specific not only to PSG, but to teams in Ligue 1 as well, because I think most people see Ligue 1, with the exception of PSG, as sort of in North America, you'd call it a farm system, like a minor league system for your higher up teams to hone their skill. Yeah, the Farmers League is essentially. Do you think that some of the elite teams in Europe, the Bayern Munichs, the teams in La Liga, the Barcelonas, the Real Madrids, Man Uniteds, Man Cities and stuff, do you think sometimes, whether it's English fans or players on the elite teams, take Ligue 1 teams lightly just because of that? Because basically, like, if you're an elite player and you're playing in Ligue 1, chances are you're not going to stay in Ligue 1 for very long.
No, I get what they're saying, but no, we had this argument last night on Don Robbie about it, and you only have to look at the French national team. You only have to look at the players that come from France in the French league, who the Premier League teams buy. So I wouldn't say it's a farmers league. I'd say it's a really, really young, developing league. And I think the only thing that stops it being really, really competitive is big money, and it's not passed down, because a lot of the lower league teams, I mean, a lot of the teams like Rennes and Lille and all them, all the best players get sold. So before they have time to be absolute quality in that league, they're all farmed out everywhere else. The difference with the Premier League, even the smaller teams, the ones who are in the bottom half of the table, have still got the big money and can still buy players and keep players, so they keep their quality of squad high. Whereas the French, they just cash in. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I wouldn't call it a farmers league. No, I think it's a decent quality league.
These 2 teams, we talked about it earlier, are 2 teams sort of labeled as not being able to get it done in this competition. Pep Guardiola has talked about that the Premier League is the most important trophy to win for them every single season. I think a lot of people in England would probably agree with that assessment. But until one of these teams, either PSG or Man City, is able to get it done and win this competition, is this going to be the most important competition for Man City or PSG to win until that point? And then once they get it done, they can focus on the other stuff?
Yeah, I think for the first couple of years under Pep, I don't think it was important for him. I think he wanted to put some foundations down in the league, and he's done that. And like you say, he won the Centurion season, and he's done the Formidable season. So City fans sort of let the Champions League ride, and they were happy with where we was. But I think this season now, I've said it on the Big Six, there's no excuses. We've got the great squad, probably the best squad in the world for me. We've probably got the best manager in the world, and we've got no injuries. So there's no excuses now. So it's time. So it's time for him to get it done, to get the job done, get that trophy back in Manchester. Then there's nothing else for anyone can say then about Manchester City. You know, we've won everything. We've won everything. We've come from the bottom all the way to the top. You know what I mean? We've won a lot, and that's what we want this year. And then we can get on to playing football, and we don't have to get all that nonsense about Pep Guardiola being a fraud, Man City's never won a European Cup, and all that crap. You know what I mean?
That's insane to me too, that people are labeling him as that type of person. I mean, I guess it's maybe to do with the fact that he is with a team that hasn't won it before. But if Pep is in Barcelona, or like doesn't go to Man City with Bayern Munich, do you think he still has that reputation on him?
I take it with a pinch of salt, mate. It's a lot of childish kids who talk that nonsense. Anyone who knows football and anyone who knows what it takes to run a team at the top level and to keep a team motivated to win all them trophies, anyone that knows that you're not a fraud. Anyone that can change the face of English football, then you know it's not a fraud. You only have to look at the teams trying to copy him. All the teams now trying to copy their style, playing out from the back. Do you know what I mean? The guy revolutionised football. He revolutionised football. And the thing is with Pep Guardiola, what stands him out with different, you've seen it with Mourinho. He came in, he changed football. But then he slowly started to decline. And the thing was, Mourinho then couldn't change with football. He changed football, but then football changed again, and he couldn't go with it. Arsene Wenger was the same. At Arsenal, he revolutionised football. He changed the whole face of the Premier League. And then football evolved and changed again. Arsene Wenger was left behind. Alex Ferguson, to his credit, he could change, and he did adapt, and he tweaked Man United every season to compete. Now that's a sign of a good manager. And Pep Guardiola's the same. You know, the ticky-tacky football all went out the window. Then he invented the false nine system. Then he comes to Manchester City, starts playing from the back. And all these managers tried to invent these systems to beat him, but he's still the top of his game. Every league he went to, he's still top of his game. And it's all right saying, oh, yeah, but he's gone to the best teams and they spend the most money. Yeah, they do. But you've seen top teams in England spend money. Man United spent £1 billion and not won the Premier League. So that's nonsense. But I judge it on the managers who can evolve with football, because football's fast. It comes at you fast and it changes fast. And if you don't adapt and you're stubborn and you're an old warhorse of a manager and you think my method's the best and it'll never change, then you're going to get left behind.
And Pep Guardiola's record speaks for himself. Pep Guardiola's championships with Bayern Munich, with Manchester City, and with Barcelona speaks for itself. And I am willing to take a guess as well that, you know, if Pep Guardiola, this is obviously more of a hypothetical situation, but if Pep Guardiola throws it out there to clubs around the world and says, hey, I'm available, I'm looking to find a new club to manage, I'd be willing to bet that quite a few managers, no matter who is in charge of that team, quite a few board members would be willing to dump their managers, no matter what they are under contract, if they think they can get Pep Guardiola. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Edin Dzeko just scored.
Okay.
2-1. Yeah. No.
Insult to injury. The former City guy. Definitely. Getting it done. Yeah.
I love the guy. I love the guy. But anyone, any owner, any fan, any board member in the world is going to want Pep Guardiola. I think it's just what he brings to your team. And the thing is with him, he brings a unity and the, you know, the guy's just class. On and off the pitch, he's class. He's living in Manchester on his own. His family are in Spain. He's living in an apartment on his own. You know, must be lonely. Mustn't be great. But he's still doing the business. You know what I mean? He's not moaning about the rain. He's not moaning about the snow. He's just he can choose. He can choose any club in the world, really, in any country. But he chose Man City, and we've made it comfortable for him. And everything he needs to, he said, everything he needs to succeed in football, he's been given at Manchester City. Now you can't ask for more than that.
Absolutely not. I got one more thing to talk about when it comes to the Champions League. Then we're going to touch on Crystal Palace and a little bit about the voting for Player of the Year, because I want to get your thoughts on that. So last question when it comes to the Champions League. Is there a team between PSG and Man City? We talked about how the stakes are so high for both of these teams who desperately want it. Do you think there is one that needs this victory more than the other between Man City and PSG?
Us, we need it more. We need it more. Paris Saint-Germain, they slag Manchester City off for having no history. Yeah? Paris Saint-Germain was only formed in 1970. Do you know what I mean? We were formed in 1894. Do you know what I mean? And we need it, man. And all them dark days in Division 2 when we stuck with our team, we need it. You know what I mean? There was times in our history where we could have give up on this team. And we should have given up on this team because they didn't deserve the support. But you know what we did? We just pulled it together and we sat and we thought, you know what? No matter how bad we get, we'll never, ever leave this team. And we didn't. So these fans who I was with in Division 2 that I spoke to last night, who were over the moon. And for all them fans that stuck it out, this one's for us, man. You know what I mean? I know we've got new fans, but this one's for us. We what kept this club going when we needed it, and no one's going to take that away from us. And this Champions League, I think we deserve it, mate.
Yeah, you know what it makes me think of? I'm reminded of it was a former Argentine great striker, Gabriel Batistuta, who had a long career with Fiorentina before he finally was able to win a few trophies with Roma, interestingly. He talked about how, like winning is great, but it would have meant more to him because of the club of Fiorentina and, the fact that he grew up he basically, he made his career at Fiorentina before being a big star and then getting the big contract with Roma. So I think there is something to that it means more to the guys that have been there and stuck it out than, if somebody just moves to a big club and all of a sudden wins the championship. It's still great. Winning is obviously, you can't take away that feeling, but it means something that much more, I think, when you've been with the club and sort of suffered as long as you have, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Batistuta was a great player. He's one of my favourite all-time players. Yeah, of course it does. I think, it means a lot, doesn't it? You get an attachment to a club, you get an attachment to an area and the fans, and it becomes a part of your DNA. It's like a lot of the players now, when they sign for Man City, they're staying for 10 years. So, it proves that it's a good place to work. We've touched on it before. We've said about it being a happy place to play football. And there's a lot of them players have changed the mentality in the blue side of Manchester. We were always known as Man City, typical City. They're going to mess it up. They're going to do this. If there's anyone that can do it, this, that, and the other. Manchester City, the only team in history that they won the league in 1936. Yeah. They got relegated in 1937. And they scored the most goals in the league in 1937 and got relegated. How would you work that one out? That's just Man City for you. So imagine what our grandfathers and stuff have been watching over the years, And I just think, players like Vincent Kompany and all that, they've got an attachment to Manchester. Them players made us dream, and we're in dreamland now. You know what I mean? I never forget where we came from. I'll never forget them days at Main Road. And these days are brilliant. You know what I mean? The modern day fans. My son's been to three parades, 4 parades, and it took me 30 years to go to 1. So and now he can give or take these parades and think, well, I've been to one of them. Whereas me, I'm going all the time. You know what I mean? And that's just the way it is. But yeah, never take it for granted. You know what I mean? We're lucky at the minute. But yeah, there is players that they stick with teams and it becomes a part of their life. You know what I mean?
Well, and Man City is nearing, we might as well shift gear. They are nearing dreamland yet again in the Premier League. Let's talk about their upcoming weekend fixture with Crystal Palace. They need 2 wins to guarantee themselves their 3rd Premier League title in the last 4 years. At this point of the season, when it gets so late, is it really just about just get it done. Doesn't matter how you do it, just win. And that's as simple as that.
Yeah, get it done, mate. If we beat Palace on Saturday and Man United lose on Sunday, we won the league. So we only need Liverpool to beat United and us to beat Palace, and it's game over. So we could be champions again on Sunday. We just need to get it done. Let's get it done. You know, we started off the season bad. There was people saying that Manchester City were finished this season. They were too far behind. Obviously, we went on that amazing run. And we're on the verge of getting the 5th Premier League title, which is unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable. Just to get the 1 would have been enough for us. But to be coming up to number 5, unbelievable, man.
I don't have a lot of notes about Crystal Palace because I don't think it's necessarily like the best in terms of like storylines going into a weekend. It's not exactly like a great rivalry, but one of the things that I think of when I think of Crystal Palace is Wilfried Zaha, and it seems like and Roy Hodgson as well, the experience of a manager like Roy Hodgson. But with a guy like Wilfried Zaha, I feel like the team is kind of built around him in the sense that if Wilfried Zaha hold up a second. No, we were doing so well there. I can still see you fine. Can you hear me, Steve? Steve, are you there? Oh my God. I don't know what happened. We were crushing it there. We were doing so well. Let me try switching off on my end here and then turning it back that way. Is that hold on. Okay, Steve is leaving. We're gonna reconnect with Steve here quickly. We're just about wrapped up. But basically, Man City, like we were talking about with Steve, they need a win and a Man United loss gets them the championship, gets them the Premier League. If they are not able to get it done this week, well, 2 more wins gets the job done. Crystal Palace, middle of the pack, not necessarily a huge team. All right, Steve is back. Let's bring him in here, and hopefully we can wrap this up here shortly. Hey, there we go. All right. So, like we were talking about, when I think of Crystal Palace, I think of Wilfried Zaha. I see their team kind of built around him because if Wilfried Zaha is going, they're going to be really successful. If he's injured or if he is shut down, they are dead in the water, in my opinion. Do you see Crystal Palace any differently than I do?
No, I think the whole of England sees it that way. You know, we know what they're about. They're a strange side. You know, they turned up at the Etihad a couple of years ago and beat us. A couple of wonder strikes. Sellers Park with fans is always a tricky place to go because they've got some great ultra support there. This season they've not been the best. I fully expect us to get the job done. I understand there's going to be some tired legs because of the Champions League, but I even expect Pep to mess around with the team again. I think Aguero might play. I think Mendy might play. Torres might play. Nathan Ake might play. So Crystal Palace may have a slim chance because every time we seem to tinker with the team, it doesn't do well. So I'll reserve my judgment on this game till the teams are announced.
Yeah, I see it the same way because they've got the Champions League coming up on Tuesday. That's a quick turnaround for them. And then Crystal Palace is also, they failed to score in, I think, 10 of their last 17 games against City. So Manchester hasn't had any issues containing Crystal Palace. But I see this as kind of a prime opportunity. This has to be a game that Man City has to win because Crystal Palace doesn't really have anything to play for at this point. Whereas you look at the other teams in the Premier League that Man City are playing down the stretch. They're playing Newcastle, who are still not quite out of the woods when it comes to relegation. Same thing with Brighton. Everton and Chelsea still have an opportunity to get into a Champions League spot in Europe. So I feel like this is a prime opportunity for City to make wholesale changes because Palace don't really have much to play for at this point.
No. Yeah, I agree. I think Newcastle game, Palace game, got to be making changes. Chelsea, we owe them one for the FA Cup, so and we could play them in the Champions League if we get through. So I expect us to play a good team against them. But yeah, we just got to get this league wrapped up now. You know what I mean? It's been a great season for us, and it'd be nothing sweeter than Liverpool to beat Man United and win us the league.
One thing that you talked about, Man United has gotten a lot of the headlines this year for their play away from home because they're nearing in on Arsenal's record for most undefeated games on the road in Premier League history. But Man City has won, I think it's close to 20 games, I think, consecutively on the road in the Premier League. Do you notice anything differently about their game on the road as opposed to their play at the Etihad?
No, I don't know. Just whether it's hard to put a finger on it. You do get teams like that. I mean, you look at Man United, and they've struggled at home a few times, and then they're going away from home, just picking up the wins. I just think I don't think you can put your finger on it. I just think maybe teams just play. I mean, I used to think sometimes teams played away when they didn't have home fans on the back. But obviously there's no fans, so that puts that one to bed. So I don't know. It's just a strange stat, that, I think.
Yeah, a couple of quick ones before we wrap up here. We're going to shift gears. Yesterday, voting opened for Player of the Season for Manchester City. I think it's going to be an incredibly difficult decision. Last year was pretty clear-cut, in my opinion, that Kevin De Bruyne, with the season he had and with how far behind City were to Liverpool, that Kevin De Bruyne was kind of a no-brainer to win last season. This season, there's a lot of different people who could potentially get a lot of votes. Ruben Diaz, you can argue, has been sort of the missing ingredient to the defense, and he's been phenomenal at the back. Kevin De Bruyne still had another stellar season. Maybe he's not probably going to get the same amount of assists that he did last year. I don't think he's going to get tie or beat his own record or Thierry Henry's record. But he still had a massive impact and has played great in these big games for Man City. Phil Foden has scored some big goals. Ilkay Gundogan has been, I think, back-to-back was Premier League Player of the Month. Riyad Mahrez has come up big in the last few games, and Riyad Mahrez has been phenomenal with his passing. Joao Cancelo, I think, is one of the best when it comes to creating chances from the back. Is there any other players I'm missing who should be on the short list for Player of the Year for Man City?
For me, I think Diaz will win it for his impact alone. It's been brilliant. Gundogan's going to be in there because obviously when Kevin De Bruyne was injured, he was unbelievable, and he has been unbelievable. Mahrez can get a shout. Foden, Stones, you can go through the team and you can pick people out, but just the outstanding one for me, and I think he'll win it. It'll be Ruben Diaz. I mean, to come to England your first season and perform like that and really and turn us into a different team. We've not always had the best defence over the last few years, even when we've won the league. Otamendi, people like that. It's always been a little bit ropey, you know what I mean? But with this guy, you just get the feeling that we just look solid, man. He just looks solid. If you take him out, it's a massive part of what we do. We miss De Bruyne and we cope, but in defence, we Diaz is key for us.
And Diaz is remarkably versatile as well. He sits out maybe like once every 4 or 5 games or so just because of the demanding schedule. But if there's one guy who can handle playing on a daily basis, I feel like it's probably Ruben Diaz. Last question here before we wrap up, Steve. Do you think for the voting for Player of the Year, do you think it matters at all, like how well they do in one competition as opposed to another? Like if their form in the Premier League is a lot better than their form in the Champions League, or does it have to be somebody who is consistently performing in all competitions?
Yeah, it's got to be over the full season. It's all right turning up in certain cup games, but I think most fans will judge it over the season in the Premier League. That's the bread and butter games. That's what we all watch week in, week out. And I think Diaz, Gundogan, between them two, they've both been outstanding. But for me, like I say, I'm going for Diaz, but I wouldn't argue if Ilkay won it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so many different. This is probably the deepest Man City team. We've talked about that, but also like you can make an argument for at least 5 or 6 different guys to potentially win the award. So it's just going to come down to like which way fans are swinging one way or the other. But it'll be very interesting. All of those names that I mentioned before, I think, could be equally as deserving for sure. Steve, thanks so much for doing this.
No problem.
We had our issues here, but we got her done. What do you guys have coming up with the Big Six podcast, or do you have any watch alongs coming up this weekend? What's going on with you?
We've got the Big Six tomorrow night, as usual on Turkish's channel. We have got Big Six Sunday, so we could be champions by then. So it should be fun. And then on Tuesday, I'm going back to London on the train to do the watch along for Paris Saint-Germain and Man City again. So it's going to be a nervous time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it though. You know, this is what it's all about, man.
Yeah, exciting times for sure. And speaking of exciting times, I am going to get off here. I will put up this video on YouTube shortly. I will catch the second half. I have to catch up a little bit. Seems like there was a lot going on in the first half. I will recap the Man United and Roma game on Manchester News and Sports Mole as well. I've just started doing some articles with them, so I'm going to be writing some columns starting next week with Major League Soccer. There are some articles, some preview articles about Copa Libertadores, the South American Championship. So a lot going on. Steve, I'll let you get to the second half. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. See you soon, mate. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye, mate. Bye.